Hello everyone, Shawn, Kenney here, playing some more Kerbal Space Program, doing some more science. I was working on a ship here, and this was initially just going to be a test flight to make sure all the boosters and everything were going to be working okay, and it turned into a little bit of a longer flight, so I recorded it, and here we are. So I've done a little bit of modification. We have a couple new science experiments on this ship now. We have a thermometer and a barometric pressure reading, so we can get a little more testing done. And I've sort of upgraded the fuel size. We've added 4 tanks now that we have fuel lines. That's all in asparagus staging up at the top, so that should give us a little bit more room to maneuver, as it were. And so there we go. Got a nice and steady launch. I was really quite happy with that. So the bottom stage is just going to burn out. Those engines do have thrust vectoring. Now we are slowing down a fair amount, but I think we'll be right about 150 meters per second when we're crossing over into the thinner atmosphere. So that's going to work. We should be able to continue accelerating on from there. As you can see, Jeb is back. He does his little respawning trick every once in a while, and we have Jeb back. So great. We can maybe try and revisit the Mun. He has a little bit to prove there that he really can land when he's not trying to land on extremely high-angled surfaces. It is best to try and land on flatter surfaces. So as you can see, you're just burning through that bottom stage. Now with that tri-coupler, that certainly makes these larger rockets a little more stable. And with the struts now, we was able to bundle them all together, so there's no more movement. We can make them a little bit longer that way. And once we strap the bottom end down by the engines, because they do have a tendency to flail about if you don't have them secure. So here we go, one stage down there, and I'm just going to move into some time acceleration here, and because it does take a little bit of time, we're just sort of burning to get into an orbit here, and the second stage will pretty much do that. We also have the longer tanks, so that helps in stability as well. You don't have to stack 4 of those tanks to get, whereas you can just take 2 of the longer tanks and stack them together. So it does make it a lot more stable and secure. I'm going to do a few experiments, send some results back. At this point, have a fair amount of fuel in this little stage, and as it is asparagus staging set up, we'll be able to really get the most delta V out of it. So just trying to circularize the orbit here. There we go. Nice low orbit. Still got lots of fuel left, and now we can try and figure out where we're going to intercept the Mun here. There we go. Getting some kind of intercepts here, just trying to figure out where the best place. And yeah, I'm kind of liking that. That looks pretty good. So I'm just seeing how close I can try and make that periapsis, because then it would be less fuel that I have to burn when I actually get there. So I think dialing it in here, looking at the periapsis, is about like 180,000 meters. Oh, like 82. That's pretty close. So I'm going to go with that. And yeah, so here we go. We can deploy the solar panels. Just have some small little solar panels. We have the new battery, so we have like tons of power. So for the first time, while I'm not mining all the science I can out of every spot, I am doing, a few crew reports along the way, a few experiments, beaming the information back throughout the mission. Just generally 1 experiment per area. I'm really not trying to maximize each zone's or each science biome's area. I've seen Scott Manley do an impressive job of getting like 3,000 science or 6,000 science per mission. It's definitely incredible. I kind of want to, explore, and make use of that tech tree. So, you unlock a couple parts, and you're likely to use those couple parts in the next mission. You say, okay, what can I now do with these parts? And so you get a lot more familiarity with some of the parts that maybe veteran players pretty much skipped over, because there's one stage of rocket, and then if you want to do something else with it, then there's generally a more efficient rocket to do your job. But what happens when you have sort of some of those mid-range rockets that fit between envelopes? If those are all you have, how do you make use of them? So I'm really, while I'm trying to get a lot of science and beam the information back, I'm not trying to maximize every flight, because I want to be able to unlock a few parts, play around with those parts, and then, okay, we do another mission, making use of what I've unlocked to get somewhere further or hit another goal. That's my philosophy, anyways, when I'm approaching Kerbal Space Program. Like I said, I could probably maximize out some science and unlock the more of the science tree a little bit quicker, but a little bit of self-restraint really extends the playability of this, in my opinion, anyways. Hopefully, eventually, in lieu of them having the career and the costs involved, which I think we're going to do more or less the same thing. Have parts have a cost, and you'll have a certain budget, perhaps even missions in the career zone. And see, I'm coming down, unfortunately right on the ridge. I want to try and get a little bit closer to the flatter land that's in the center of this crater. But it is a little bit trying, if you're trying to control based on the orientation of your ship and the camera, you get all out of whack. And so while I would like to get a little bit closer to the center of the crater. At this point, we're coming down, so I figured I'd just go with it. Let's really put these new landing legs to the test, since they're supposed to even out somewhat the hydraulics to match the level of the terrain. So hopefully be able to... We're coming down nice and slow. You got the lights on. We're just hovering barely over the surface. We go. Want to touch down a little bit of an angle, and just tapping that SAS. As you can see, yeah, still on a bit of a slope, but those new landing legs, I'm pretty sure that would have been a spill in a previous version with stiffer landing legs, but we made it. We made it to the Mun. Alright, the first time we made it to Minmus and back, but now we've hit the real goal. We've made it to the Mun. Deploy some ladders. Jeb's just thrilled. He's going to be able to survive a landing. And we have a lot of fuel left, so there's a lot of possibilities left. So we might as well I want to grab this science, and I want to keep this data, and I want to try and return it intact. I figure this is sort of the main goal of the mission, so I want to have some primary data that I don't end up transmitting, and we want to get 100% of it back to the Kerbal Space Center. So there we go. I'm going to check out the barometer, but we're in a vacuum, so it doesn't take any readings. The temperature, while we were out away in orbit, it wasn't taking any readings, but you have to be either like closer to a planet, I guess, for the thermometer to work. And for the barometric pressure, I guess you're going to have to be in a planet that has some measure of an atmosphere, I guess. Just the vacuum wasn't enough, even though we were on the Mun's surface. Now, it actually turns out that this is one of the large craters, so this is a separate biome than the other sections of the Mun. I think there's a few other biomes. I don't know exactly. Hopefully, over time, what we'll see is them implement some kind of mapping tool that you'd be able to maybe map out where the different science biomes are, and then so you have your mission to go scout out where you need to send other missions to collect samples to get maybe max out what a planet can offer you. Really looking forward to that. So it's the first Jeb on Moon. Yeah, Kerbal, he totally meant meant to be the first Kerbal on the Mun. But he's the first Jeb on the Mun. So as you can see, we're kind of close to the edge there. I thought I could get up there and have a peek. See what's on the other side in the spirit of exploration. And I have to say, that's quite the vista. Jeb is odd. Yeah, that's quite an appropriate facial expression, I have to say. Yeah, that looks pretty darn cool. And thought maybe we'd do a little bit of a zoom out and just see where we landed here. So we're in this fairly large crater that turns out to be inside an even larger crater. I mean, that's wow. That makes you really feel insignificant right there. We're just a dot on the on a ridge of the Mun. Way to go, Jeb. Yeah, I like that spot. All right, so we've done what science we can. Oh, came in a little fast. Thankfully, it didn't splat. That would have really ruined the whole flavor of the mission to get this far, have this much science loaded up, and not be able to and to face plant and crack the spacesuit. But there we go. We get Jeb back into the module, and I think we're ready to take off. There we go. And since we don't have any atmosphere to worry about, we can just start going right on for a 45-degree angle. Get us a little bit of an apoapsis, something to get us started. Don't want to burn. Don't need a huge orbit. And but I mean, we have a fair amount of fuel. I'm going to take a few more readings. I can take a few crew reports and I'll send them off. But like I said, I'm not doing it multiple times until it basically turns out to be like 0.1 or it'll get to the point where you're transmitting such a fraction of one science that it not really much point sending anymore. But so I'm, like I said, I'm not trying to maximize every flight. Like I said, I probably could do science experiments and beam them power-wise. With those few solar panels, we have more than enough power. Definitely be able to do it, at least while we have we have sunlight on our craft. So here I'm just trying to figure out how are we going to get a nice little transfer orbit. And that seems to be, the best result for the least amount of fuel is what I was looking for. That's just about a 220 meter per second burn. Just 17 seconds, so that's we have that. No problem. And we're going to be doing a little bit of an orbit over our landing site. See that nice big crater? And what seemed to be a really big crater is actually one of our more modest to small size craters that we actually landed in within the large crater. So the sense of scale is just, I've always wanted a space game that really had planets like this. And I always figured it would be some kind of space fighter type game, but this is, I have to say, Kerbal Space Program really is the better way to go about doing it. You learn so much about orbital dynamics and what NASA does to get a probe out to the outer solar system really is impressive. So what I've done is I've done a short burn and shortened our periapsis so that we're coming down about 45 to 50 kilometers. So we're dipping just into the outer atmosphere here and basically doing an atmospheric re-entry. Maybe if I'd thought about it a little bit more, I would have tried to get that happening on the day side because, basically what it means is it's going to be several orbits. I'm just going to cut that out because it really is just time accelerating, flipping around, wait until you get to the periapsis. The apoapsis will shrink a little bit till we dip out of the atmosphere and rinse and repeat. So that took a little, I'm just cut that out. This is the point when we've sort of degraded. I did do a little bit of a burn to help speed the apoapsis in its shortening. I did want to keep a little bit of fuel because I'm pretty sure just this one little parachute that I have on the craft is not quite enough to slow us down. Exactly. I wanted to have a little bit of fuel to sort of just soften our landing if we are landing on land. On the ocean, maybe slow us down even still. Like, I just don't want us hitting too hard. But here we are starting to re-enter, and as I like to see that there goes the solar panels. We won't be needing them anymore. Coming in really hot, 1,000 meters per second and slowing rapidly. Burning in just like a meteorite. There we go. We're going to deploy the chute, and pretty much avoided most of the burn, although we have asbestos parachutes apparently. And I'm not quite sure where we're going to land, although it's looking like the ocean, just from the flatness of the terrain. Although it's night, so it's really hard to see. Yeah, here it is. It is definitely the ocean. So as you can see, just that one parachute's slowing me down to about 11 meters per second. So it's within threshold. I thought I'd help it out with the engines here a little bit, just to make sure we don't explode anything. But I think that was my mistake in letting that still burn, because it ended up exploding the engines anyways. We lost our goo canisters. Oh no. Well, okay, maybe I should have cut the engines off just as we were about to hit the water. I really should have thought about that. But might as well make use of this, and we can do a bit of science. A nice swan dive by Jeb. We can do some science on the water, take some water samples, as I haven't actually done that yet. I can't get in, but I was able to store the experiments. Unfortunately, Jeb's just going to have to float next to the capsule until the rescue barge comes. But did pretty good. We made about 333 science off that journey, and what was just initially supposed to be a flight test. So there we go, a little bit of science, and now we can check out what we have to unlock. As you can see, about 473 science. Have a few parts here. Now we're getting into the slightly more expensive parts. So, well, some of these layers are 90 science. There we go. That's 160, 300 science. But that one's the big solar panels. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get the electronics here. I'm going to unlock the accelerometer. That's for 300 science. And I think I'm going to grab the slightly larger rocket tanks. And so I'm ready for the next adventure. I'm Shawn Kenney, playing Kerbal Space Program. Thanks for watching. So long for now.